Welcome to the Hidden Record. Tonight, we will move quietly through 100 carefully researched facts about the human body. We will begin inside a single cell, follow messages through the brain and nerves, listen to the heart and lungs, travel through digestion and the kidneys, and finally settle into the changing rhythms of sleep. The human body is not a collection of isolated machines. It is a living community of cells, tissues, organs, microbes, fluids, and signals that continually respond to one another. A breath changes the chemistry of the blood. A hormone released in one place alters activity somewhere else. Muscles pull on bones, nerves shape movement, and the skin forms a boundary that is both protective and sensitive. Everybody also varies. Measurements such as organ size, heartbeat, sleep pattern, and the number of particular cells differ with age, body size, health, activity, and many other factors. Where a familiar number is only an estimate, we will treat it as an estimate. The goal is calm accuracy, not exaggeration. This journey is educational rather than medical advice. It will describe ordinary anatomy and physiology without asking you to diagnose anything. There is no need to memorize the names. Let each fact arrive, remain for a moment, and then fade into the next. The pauses will be gentle and never longer than 15 seconds. Imagine the body as a landscape seen at many scales. At one moment, we will be among chromosomes folded into a microscopic nucleus. At another, we will follow oxygen from an air sac in the lung to a red blood cell and onward to distant tissue. Later, we will stand within the branching architecture of bone, or watch a wave of muscular contraction move through the digestive tract. The sources behind these facts include Institutes of the United States National Institutes of Health, whose educational material explains the brain, eyes, ears, heart, lungs, digestion, kidneys, immunity, bones, skin, sleep, and the human genome. The language here is original, but the science remains close to those established references. Settle in, lower the lights, and allow the body to continue its quiet work without any help from conscious thought. Your heart, lungs, nerves, and cells already know their rhythms. We will simply notice a few of them, one fact at a time. The cell is the basic living unit of the human body. Cells differ enormously in shape and purpose, yet each maintains an internal environment and exchanges materials and information with its surroundings. Most human cells contain a nucleus, a membrane-bound compartment that holds chromosomes. Mature red blood cells are a notable exception because they lose their nuclei as they develop. DNA consists of two linked strands arranged as a double helix. Four chemical bases, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, form the sequence that carries biological information. One copy of the human genome contains roughly 3 billion DNA bases. The vast majority of those bases do not directly encode proteins, but many help regulate when genes are used. Most human body cells contain 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 chromosomes in total. Egg and sperm cells normally carry one set of 23 rather than a pair of each. Humans have about 20,000 genes, although the exact count depends on how a gene is defined. Through different patterns of gene activity, many cell types use the same genome differently. DNA is also found in mitochondria, the cell structures that help release usable energy from nutrients. Mitochondrial DNA is small compared with the DNA stored in the nucleus. Proteins are chains built from amino acids. They form structures, carry signals, transport substances, act as antibodies, and serve as enzymes that speed the chemical reactions of life. Cells surround themselves with a thin plasma membrane made largely from lipids and proteins. This boundary is selective, allowing some substances to cross while controlling the movement of others. Human tissues are organized groups of cells and surrounding material. Several tissue types combine to form organs, and organs cooperate in systems rather than performing every task alone. The adult brain weighs about 3 pounds, though size varies. It interprets sensory information, helps initiate movement, supports thought and memory, and regulates many processes that remain outside awareness. The brain and spinal cord form the central nervous system. Nerves outside them make up the peripheral nervous system, carrying information between the central system and the rest of the body. Neurons communicate through electrical changes along their membranes and chemical signals at connections called synapses. A single neuron may receive messages from many other cells before producing its own signal. Glial cells are essential partners of neurons. Different glia insulate nerve fibers, support the chemical environment, help defend nervous tissue, and contribute to development and repair. The cerebral cortex is the folded outer layer of the cerebrum. Its ridges and grooves increase surface area, allowing a large sheet of neural tissue to fit inside the skull. The cerebellum, located behind the brainstem, helps coordinate timing, balance, posture, and learned movements. It constantly compares intended actions with sensory information arriving from the body. The brainstem connects the brain with the spinal cord. It participates in vital automatic functions, including breathing, heart regulation, swallowing, alertness, and many reflexes involving the head. The spinal cord is more than a cable. Networks within it can organize rapid reflexes, producing a protective movement before conscious awareness has fully caught up with the event. The autonomic nervous system helps regulate organs automatically. Its sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions shift heart rate, breathing, digestion, pupil size, and other functions according to changing needs. The brain can change with experience, a property called plasticity. Connections strengthen, weaken, or reorganize during learning, development, adaptation, and recovery, although this flexibility has real biological limits. Light first passes through the transparent cornea at the front of the eye. The cornea bends light, while the lens makes additional adjustments to focus an image on the retina. The pupil is an opening rather than a colored structure. The surrounding iris changes the pupil's diameter, regulating how much light enters under different conditions. The retina contains photoreceptor cells. Rods are highly sensitive in dim light, while cones support color vision and fine detail most effectively under brighter conditions. Photoreceptors convert light into electrical activity. Retinal circuits process the signal before ganglion cell fibers gather to form the optic nerve and carry information toward the brain. Each eye has a natural blind spot where the optic nerve leaves the retina. Ordinary vision feels continuous because the brain combines information from both eyes and surrounding detail. Hearing begins when sound waves enter the ear canal and vibrate the eardrum. 3 small middle ear bones, the malleus, incus, and stapes, pass those vibrations inward. The stapes is the smallest bone in the human body. It transfers vibration to the fluid-filled cochlea, a spiral structure in the inner ear. Inside the cochlea, movement bends sensory hair cells. These cells help transform mechanical vibration into electrical signals that travel through the auditory nerve to the brain. The inner ear also contributes to balance. Semicircular canals respond to rotational movement, while nearby organs sense linear acceleration and the orientation of the head relative to gravity. Smell and taste work together to shape flavor. Taste receptors detect several basic qualities, while odor molecules reaching the nasal cavity provide much of a food's detailed identity. The heart is a muscular organ, roughly the size of a clenched fist. It sits near the center of the chest, between the lungs, with most of its mass slightly leftward. Four chambers divide the heart into two upper atria and two lower ventricles. The right side sends blood toward the lungs, while the left side pumps it through the body. Heart valves help keep blood moving in the intended direction. Their opening and closing depend on pressure differences created as the chambers contract and relax. The familiar heart sounds, often described as lub and dub, are produced mainly by valves closing and vibrations in nearby blood and tissue, not by the heart muscle striking the chest. Each heartbeat begins with an electrical signal normally generated in pacemaker cells of the sinoatrial node. The signal spreads through the atria before reaching the ventricles through a specialized pathway. The delay at the atrioventricular node gives the ventricles time to fill after the atria contract. Coordinated timing makes the heart a more effective pump. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, and veins return blood toward it. These terms describe direction, so pulmonary arteries carry oxygen-poor blood, and pulmonary veins carry oxygen-rich blood. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels. Their thin walls allow oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, water, hormones, and wastes to move between blood and surrounding tissues. Red blood cells transport oxygen using hemoglobin, an iron-containing protein. Their flexible, indented shape helps them travel through very narrow capillaries and provides surface area for gas exchange. Platelets are small cell fragments that participate in clotting. When a vessel is injured, they adhere, communicate with one another, and support a protein network that stabilizes the forming clot. The lungs are paired, spongy organs in the chest. The right lung normally has 3 lobes, while the left has 2 and leaves additional space for the heart. Air travels through the trachea into branching bronchi and smaller bronchioles. The branches eventually lead to microscopic air sacs called alveoli, where gas exchange occurs. Alveolar walls and nearby capillary walls are extremely thin. Oxygen moves from inhaled air into the blood, while carbon dioxide moves in the opposite direction to be exhaled. The diaphragm is the main muscle of quiet breathing. When it contracts and moves downward, the chest cavity expands and pressure falls, drawing air into the lungs. Quiet exhalation is usually passive. The diaphragm relaxes, elastic lung tissue recoils, the space in the chest becomes smaller, and air flows outward. Breathing is regulated automatically by sensors in the brainstem. Sensors provide information about carbon dioxide, oxygen, and acidity, allowing ventilation to change with activity and conditions. The immune system includes circulating cells, tissue-resident cells, organs, proteins, and physical barriers. Its broad purpose is to prevent or limit infection while avoiding unnecessary damage to healthy tissue. Innate immunity responds rapidly to general signs of damage or infection. Adaptive immunity uses B cells and T cells to recognize particular targets and can create immunological memory. All immune cells begin from precursors in bone marrow. T cells later mature in the thymus, while many immune cells travel through blood, tissues, lymphatic vessels, and lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are meeting places where immune cells examine information carried from tissues. Swelling can occur when cells multiply and activity increases during an immune response. The digestive tract is a continuous tube from the mouth to the anus. The liver, pancreas, and gallbladder are solid organs that support digestion through secretions and processing. Digestion begins before food reaches the stomach. Chewing breaks it physically, saliva moistens it, and salivary enzymes begin the chemical digestion of some carbohydrates. Swallowing starts voluntarily and then becomes largely automatic. A flap called the epiglottis helps guide food away from the airway and toward the esophagus. Peristalsis is a coordinated wave of muscular contraction and relaxation. It moves and mixes material through the esophagus, stomach, intestines, ureters, and other hollow passages. The stomach stores food temporarily and mixes it with acid and enzymes. Its contents become a partly digested mixture called chyme before entering the small intestine gradually. Most nutrient absorption occurs in the small intestine. Folds, finger-like villi, and microscopic microvilli create an extensive surface through which digested molecules can enter blood or lymph. The liver makes bile, which helps the body handle fats. The gallbladder stores and concentrates bile between meals, then releases it into the small intestine. The pancreas sends digestive enzymes and bicarbonate into the small intestine. It also releases hormones into the blood, linking this one organ to both digestion and metabolism. The large intestine absorbs water and salts from material that remains after small intestinal digestion. Its resident microbes also break down substances that human enzymes cannot fully digest. The gut microbiome is a changing ecosystem rather than one fixed list of organisms. Diet, age, medication, environment, and many other factors help shape its composition. The kidneys are two bean-shaped organs located behind the abdominal cavity, one on each side of the spine. Each is roughly the size of a fist, though individual anatomy varies. Healthy kidneys continually filter blood, removing wastes and extra water to form urine. They also return needed water, nutrients, and minerals to the circulation. Each kidney contains about 1 million filtering units called nephrons. A nephron includes a glomerulus that filters fluid and a tubule that selectively adjusts what remains. Blood cells and most large proteins normally stay inside glomerular blood vessels. Smaller molecules and water enter the tubule, where much of the filtered material is later reabsorbed. Urine flows from each kidney through a muscular ureter to the bladder. The bladder stores it until coordinated muscles allow it to leave through the urethra. Kidneys help balance sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus, water, and acid. These carefully regulated conditions allow nerves, muscles, and other cells to function normally. The kidneys also act as endocrine organs. They release signals involved in blood pressure regulation, red blood cell production, and the activation of vitamin D for bone health. Hormones are chemical messengers released into blood or nearby tissue. They influence target cells that have suitable receptors, so the same hormone does not affect every cell equally. The endocrine system includes the pituitary, thyroid, adrenal glands, pancreas, and other hormone-producing tissues. Together, they influence growth, metabolism, reproduction, stress responses, and internal balance. The thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland at the front of the neck. Its hormones influence how the body uses energy and therefore affect the activity of many organs. An adult human skeleton typically contains 206 bones, although small accessory bones and differences in fusion create natural variation. A newborn has more separate bony elements that later join. Bone is living tissue, not a dry framework. It contains cells, blood vessels, nerves, collagen, and minerals, and it changes throughout life in response to biology and mechanical load. Compact bone forms a dense outer layer. Inside many bones, lighter trabecular bone creates a lattice that distributes forces while leaving spaces for marrow and blood vessels. Bone remodeling is a continuous partnership. Osteoclasts remove old bone, osteoblasts lay down new material, and osteocytes within bone help direct the process. Bone marrow produces blood cells. Red marrow supports the formation of red cells, many white cells, and platelets, connecting the skeleton directly with circulation and immunity. Joints are places where two or more bones meet. Some move freely, some allow limited motion, and fibrous joints, such as many skull sutures, are nearly immovable. In the synovial joint, smooth cartilage covers bone ends, a capsule surrounds the space, and synovial fluid helps lubricate movement. Ligaments connect bone to bone across the joint. Tendons connect muscles to bones. When skeletal muscle fibers shorten, the tendon transmits force to the skeleton, producing movement around one or more joints. Skeletal muscles often work in coordinated groups rather than simple pairs. Some produce movement, some oppose it, and others stabilize nearby joints so an action can remain controlled. Muscle cells use the proteins actin and myosin to generate force. Their interaction converts chemical energy from ATP into movement at scales from a heartbeat to a fingertip. Skin is the body's largest organ by surface area. It protects internal tissues, limits water loss, participates in immunity, senses the environment, and helps regulate temperature. The epidermis is the outer skin layer. New cells form in its deeper region and gradually move outward, changing as they help create a tough, water-resistant barrier. Below the epidermis, the dermis contains blood vessels, sensory nerve endings, collagen, hair follicles, and oil and sweat glands. It provides much of skin's strength and flexibility. The hypodermis lies deeper than the skin's main layers. It contains connective tissue and fat that cushion the body, store energy, insulate, and help attach skin to structures beneath. Melanocytes produce melanin, a pigment that contributes to skin and hair color and absorbs some ultraviolet radiation. Melanin offers protection, but it cannot block all sun damage. Sweat can cool the body when it evaporates from the skin. Blood vessels near the surface also change diameter, adjusting the movement of heat between the body's core and environment. Touch is not one single sense. Different sensory endings respond to pressure, vibration, stretch, temperature, itch, and signals associated with tissue damage. Hair grows from follicles that extend into the skin. Growth alternates through active and resting phases, so different hairs are normally at different points in the cycle. Fingernails and toenails are plates made largely of keratin. New nail cells form near the base, pushing older compacted material forward as the nail grows. Wound healing unfolds in overlapping stages. Clotting limits blood loss. Immune activity clears debris. New tissue closes the gap, and remodeling strengthens the repaired area over time. Sleep alternates between non-REM and REM phases. Non-REM sleep has 3 stages, while REM includes active brain patterns, rapid eye movements, and normally reduced skeletal muscle activity. A typical night contains several sleep cycles, often about 80 to 100 minutes each. The amount of deep sleep in REM changes as the night progresses. Deep non-REM sleep is usually more prominent earlier in the night, while REM periods generally become longer later. Age, temperature, schedule, and health can alter this pattern. Sleep supports learning and the formation of long-term memories. It also affects immune activity, metabolism, hormone patterns, cardiovascular function, attention, reaction, and emotional regulation. Circadian clocks help coordinate daily rhythms in sleep, alertness, hormones, temperature, and metabolism. Light reaching the eyes is one of the strongest signals that adjust the central clock. Human development begins when an egg and sperm combine their genetic material. The resulting cell divides repeatedly, and its descendants gradually specialize through precisely coordinated changes in gene activity. The placenta develops during pregnancy as an organ of exchange and signaling. Maternal and fetal blood normally remain in separate circulations while gases, nutrients, wastes, and messages pass between them. Growth plates near the ends of certain bones allow lengthening during childhood and adolescence. After the plates close, those bones no longer grow longer through the same process. Aging does not occur at one identical speed in every tissue. Cells, organs, immune responses, muscles, bones, sleep, and senses change through interacting genetic, environmental, and lifelong influences. No organ works in complete isolation. Every quiet moment depends on coordination among cells and systems, electrical, chemical, mechanical, and microbial, continually adjusting to keep the internal environment within livable ranges. Our 100 facts have traveled from the double helix to the sleeping brain, following light, sound, breath, blood, food, movement, and memory along the way. For a final moment, imagine the scales through which we have moved. A strand of DNA folds into a chromosome. Chromosomes rest within a nucleus. Nuclei belong to cells. Cells gather into tissues. Tissues shape organs. And organs cooperate in systems that cannot be understood completely on their own. At every level, structure and activity are joined. The heart continues its measured sequence of electrical signals and muscular contractions. Blood enters vessels that branch again and again until capillaries approach living cells. In the lungs, air reaches delicate alveoli, and gases cross a boundary so thin that a breath can alter the chemistry of the entire circulation. The brain does not need to announce every task. Networks in the brainstem help maintain breathing. The autonomic nervous system adjusts organs. Sensory pathways remain ready for sound, light, pressure, and temperature, even as attention becomes less interested in the room around you. Elsewhere, the digestive tract moves gently through its own rhythms. The liver processes and stores. The kidneys filter, return, balance, and release. Bone is remodeled in silence. Skin maintains a border with the outside world. Immune cells travel through blood and tissue, exchanging information within a system whose work is usually invisible. None of these processes requires a perfect stillness. Sleep itself is active and changing. Non-REM stages deepen and lighten. REM periods arrive and pass. Heart rate, breathing, temperature, hormones, memory, and immune activity follow patterns that shift across the night. You do not need to hold the whole journey in mind. Let the image of the cell fade first, followed by the brain's glowing pathways, the opening and closing valves of the heart, the quiet movement of the diaphragm, the branching structure of bone, and the protective layers of skin. The body is never truly motionless, yet its motion can be calm. Countless adjustments continue without becoming a demand. Each system takes its place within the larger pattern, and the pattern carries on whether or not you are watching it. Let the details grow quiet now. The body will continue its small, coordinated work while attention drifts elsewhere. The facts are finished, the lights are lower, and nothing more needs to be remembered tonight. Good night from the hidden record.